a chance that he could. I mean, it's an open, Josh McCown isn't scaring anybody. I actually would like to see Teddy Bridgewater emerge as a starter. Remember, just a few years ago in Minnesota, people loved him. Now, I know he wasn't Carson Wentz or somebody like that, but as far as a leader, as far as a manager and a winner, he had all of that. So I'd like to see him emerge, let Darnold learn under him. However, it's open competition. Neither of these guys, Bridgewater or McCown, is tremendous. So if Darnold can go in there, and as I said yesterday, we've seen rookie quarterbacks kind of set a new bar. Like, some of them are expected to come in and play well right away, and they have. So I'll give him a shot. I don't think he'll start week 1, but I think at some point in the season he probably takes over.
He came jogging out, and all I could think of yesterday was it So I Married an Axe Murderer, right? Look at that huge head. Look at that. It looks like a giant orange on the toothpick. That's exactly what. But he is. Eric Mangini sits here oftentimes, and he calls people a force multiplier. That's what Sam Darnold is. Because, look, if you go and you look at the other quarterback prospects, does he have the highest football IQ? That's probably Baker Mayfield. Okay, does he have the most pure form and release? No, that's Josh Rosen. Does he have the strongest arm? No, that's Josh Allen. Mm-hmm. But there's something about Darnold from the moment he took the field at USC as a backup in the 3rd game until the moment he walked out the door. He's a force multiplier. Yeah. He makes players around him better. He makes you feel kind of better about yourself. He's got that kind of quarterback thing. That said, he is not refined just yet, and I think that Josh McCown is the perfect guy to take the reins and take a beating early on the season. I don't know if Teddy Bridgewater has it, and I think that Teddy Bridgewater is their safety net. The problem with Teddy Bridgewater is 3 games, 10 days, start the season, surgically repaired knee, and we don't know if he has it, and we don't know if he can do it 3 times in 10 days. So I think it's McCown. I do think we see Bridgewater, and I think the Jets are very, very smart about this thing. But he's going to play because every coach knows that the 2 ways to keep your job are 1, to win, and then 2, if you can't win, play the youngest people possible. And then you can come before the meeting and go like, hey, look, we were really close today, but, man, we're so young at quarterback. He's 20 years old. He only played a year and 3 quarters in college as a starting quarterback. Yeah. He is the future. I think the future is bright, but I think they'd be wise to sit. The more he sits, the more likely he ultimately has success.
Speaking of young guys, LeBron James.
Because I love the young guys that they have. And, I'm not trying to force my hand in no way, shape, or form. I believe Rob and Magic and Jeannie has done an unbelievable job of kind of reshaping what the organization should be in the last few years on, keeping Dr. Bus, his dreams and what he was all about, to keep that going. So I feel like they know what's best for the team, and I wanted to be a piece to kind of continue that, continue that motion on being back, to a championship franchise where they should be.
Chris, are you buying that LeBron didn't want to trade for Kawhi?
Well, he said it in that quote, I like the young guys. And he said it right, guys. Because that's what it would have taken to get Kawhi Leonard, if that would have even worked. San Antonio, and rightly so, understandably so, was asking for everything. Kyle Kuzma, Brandon Ingram, Josh Hart, 3 draft picks. Like, no, you don't make that move. Now, if they could turn around and trade with Toronto and even trade Brandon Ingram and some picks for Kawhi Leonard, then I would say do it, and I'm sure LeBron would say, yes, do it. But he knew with what San Antonio was asking for, no, sit back and relax, because even if you got Kawhi Leonard, you're going to need depth to play with Golden State, to beat Golden State or have a chance. And by giving up all your young guys, you wouldn't have had that. So I think LeBron and the Lakers have made the right move right now. Now, come trade deadline, if things aren't going well in Toronto and they're ready to move Kawhi, and if they're going to lose him and they could get a Brandon Ingram for him, maybe they do that. So then you revisit. But to give up all of that, no, they did the right thing by waiting.
Let history be your guide. We all talk about how LeBron's a student of history. You and I, we've all covered the NBA. We remember when Carmelo Anthony wanted to be a New York Knick. Had he simply waited. Now, remember, the landscape was different. The collective bargaining agreement was set to expire. There was going to be a lockout. He didn't know what level he'd be paid at. but he got nervous, he got tight, and they forced the trade early to the New York Knicks. And the Knicks had a young, fun team, Danilo Gallinari and Raymond Felton. Again, this is in his prime, Raymond Felton. And remember, they had to
fit nicely around Melo.
Yeah, they had to pay a king's ransom to get Carmelo Anthony when they would have gotten him in the offseason, right? And that of all the things that didn't allow the Knicks to live up to their potential when they had Carmelo Anthony, that was probably it. The Knicks would have been back. But they didn't wait, and Carmelo Anthony couldn't wait. LeBron James, I think, and Rob Pelinka and Magic Johnson, I believe, are convinced that if they don't get Kawhi, there's still Jimmy Butler, Klay Thompson, Draymond Green, Kevin Durant, you name it, the free agents are out there next season. But they believe that it's better off, let's see what these guys have. LeBron, you heard his own words. We played them for you earlier. He doesn't think he's at the end of his prime. The reality is at some point he's going to fade, but can they wait an extra year and get another free agent to go with the guys they already do have? Remember, they have the Luol Deng contract, which they can stretch. They're going to have the space in their salary cap with Kentavious Caldwell-Pope and all these other guys being on a one-year deal. It's the smart play. It's the long play. It's the patient play. But if you look at the history just of the Knicks, when they had a good young roster and they chose to go all in on Carmelo Anthony a couple months early, that ended up, I know they won a couple of playoff series in the Eastern Conference, but truthfully, that was a failed experiment. Yeah. This is the opposite of that, and I think it's a smarter long-term play.
And in what way can it be a feel-out process? Because I know it's Summer League, but Josh Hart has a monster summer. We know what Brandon Ingram did last year. To see what Lonzo Ball does and Kyle Kuzma in their second, to see what guys actually fit around LeBron, which guys work best.
Well, this is the perfect example. Obviously, you cover the Nets as their lead analyst for your career, and so D'Angelo Russell's the perfect example, right? He puts up empty stats. They're probably better when he doesn't play, even though he's their leading scorer. Mm-hmm. And so I think that, honestly, LeBron wants to see it for himself because Brandon Ingram seems to have some of the makings of a Kevin Durant type, but there's questions as to whether or not he has that dog in him. Who's going to know better than LeBron James playing 82 games? I'll know maybe after training camp or after the first 20 games because, as we all know, there's different levels to NBA games, right? There's NBA games that exist only in the bottom line in the box score, and then there's real NBA games that everybody watches. Now you're playing the real NBA with LeBron James on your team. He's going to know who's got the stuff that it takes to compete with him, with the Warriors, with the Rockets, with the Thunder in the future. And I think the only way to know is to play in those situations with Ingram. I think they think Hart has it, but they don't know if Hart is ultimately a starter or a bench player. Summer League is not real NBA. Lonzo Ball, there were some signs of him breaking through. Year 2 plus playing with LeBron, it looks completely different when you're playing at the upper echelon of NBA games, and you're only going to know that by doing it with LeBron James.
That's what this season is about. Find out who's going to be your second star for this year. And then if you get a big-time free agent, who can be your third star? So see what Ingram, Kuzma, Ball are made of. Hart, like you said, I think Hart does have the right stuff. I'm not saying he's going to be a tremendous player, but he's a strong character player. He can shoot it. He can defend. I think he's smart basketball-wise. So he's solid. And if they fold under the pressure of a Lance Stevenson or the Rajon Rondo going at him in practice, Michael Beasley,
correct,
then you know they're not made of the right stuff and you regroup. But that's what this season is about.
Well, it's no surprise. And he told Rachel Nichols last night when she asked about some of the, potentially head-scratching decisions they made and guys they acquired with a Lance or with a. He said these guys wake up and think about basketball. They want to play basketball. They're competitors.
That was. I mean, look, there are guys in the NBA that don't love the game. They like it and they love what it brings.
They're going to push these young guys.
But they will. But look. San Antonio's got guys that love the game. Houston's got guys that love the game. Golden State certainly has guys.
And who's available though?
Yeah, I'm fine with that. I'm just saying
part.
To love the game. That was. I get what they're doing. They're taking a page out of Houston Rockets' book defensively. And they looked at the playoffs and they saw Houston switched everything, forced it into a one-on-one isolation, get Golden State out of their motion offense and go one-on-one. And they think with these guys they're adding that they can do that defensively and give the Golden State Warriors maybe some
They got some dog in them.
Yeah, they got some dog.
That's part. We touched on this yesterday. I don't know if I got an answer from you guys. What would deem a successful next year, just next year, not big picture, what would be a successful season, do you think, in the eyes of the Lakers?
Look, the West, I think there's Golden State. I still have Houston, even though they may have dropped off a little bit as the second team. And then I think, the Lakers, the Spurs, the Jazz, the Thunder,
Blazers.
the Blazers. Yeah, it's just a bunch of teams together, yes, that are fighting for those last 6 spots. Yeah, and so
Mavericks.
You could finish in the 7th.
And the Clippers.
Yeah, I wouldn't put the Mavericks up in that group yet, or even the Clippers. I wouldn't put in that group. But if you could finish 7th and be a game and a half, 2 games out of the 3rd spot, just like last year. So, I've predicted 53 wins and LeBron's the MVP. That would probably put you in the top 4 seed.
If they have 53 wins, he will, in fact, be the MVP.
They're going to have to win 50 plus for him to be the MVP.
Look, I just... It's the definition of pornography, right? You know it when you see it, right? You'll know a successful season when you see it, right? Or do we have, remember last year his coach had to step away because of anxiety. They had to trade half the roster. So I would hate to put a number of wins.
But they have to make the playoffs.
They have to make the playoffs. And you can't be like an 8 seed, 7 seed fighting your way in. I feel like they got to be a solid playoff team. But again, you know it when you see it. If it feels like the momentum is, it's like a company. If it feels like the momentum is, they're not going to win a championship. I don't expect it. I think it's unrealistic to expect them to contend for a championship. But if you know it when you see it, if you feel like it's growing into something like, oh, you know what, Ingram. Oh, you know what, Lonzo Ball. Oh, KCP. They're a little bit better, a little bit further along than I thought, and it's going to work ultimately when they add another piece. You'll know it when you see it. I would say solid playoff team. I just hate to put a defined number around it because there's so many other variables we don't know.
Yeah,
about.
I'm not saying they have to win 53 for it to be successful. That's what I'm predicting, but they have to make the playoffs. That's the
correct.
They have to do that. Maybe get to the second round.
All right, coming up, do the Giants have the best offense?